Today, I want to do something different and talk to you guys about my experience at video game conventions, specifically 3 different kinds of interactions that I'll have when I go and make an appearance at a convention. I'll have interactions with organizers, I'll have interactions with all kinds of vendors when I'm doing buying and selling, and also interactions with a bunch of you guys, viewers. And I thought since in this last year, I've probably been to like 8 to 10 conventions everywhere from California to Pennsylvania, so I thought it'd be interesting to share my perspective on the whole experience and the kind of interactions that I have. Let me know if you guys find this kind of video interesting in the comments, and maybe I'll do more of them in the future. So I'll start out talking about my interactions with convention organizers, which is a very interesting topic because I've had a very broad spectrum of experiences. I've had everything from like sometimes I'll reach out to a convention via their like contact form or, special guest manager email or whatever, and say, hey, I'm looking to come make a video. Is there anything that, can I be there early, or is there anything that you guys do to, financially subsidize that or anything? I've had everything from some organizers being like, yes, come on out, we'll put you on the website, like get us a bio, I'll help you out with, travel, and here's a free ticket and you VIP stuff, all this stuff, very hospitable. To on the other end, some convention owners will just be like, sorry, buy a ticket, we don't really do anything for that. Now, I'm gonna take a moment here and share my completely, utterly biased YouTuber opinion on this subject. I wanna talk to video game expo organizers in case there might be any watching, because I would love to see a shift start to happen in the industry. Because at most conventions I go to, I will talk to multiple, if not dozens of people who say, hey man, you're the reason that I'm here. I wouldn't have known about this event if it weren't for your video that you posted last year. Thank you for doing that. We're having a blast. And most other game hunting creators that I've talked to in my granted somewhat small circle will actually say the same thing. So if there are any expo organizers in the audience right now watching, I would like to humbly propose perhaps taking some of the marketing dollars that I often see going to like Instagram ads or, billboards in the city or things like that, maybe even like obscure voice actor appearances, that kind of thing, and designating them as a game hunting, game collecting YouTuber budget. Again, that's my very biased YouTuber opinion. I just know that especially earlier on in my channel, I would oftentimes be out of pocket like, $1,500+ to go to a convention and create these pieces of personal and permanent marketing that are my YouTube videos. And I'm really lucky because at this point in the business, that cost doesn't necessarily hurt as bad because I'm both making money on the stuff that I buy to flip when I'm there, and also I'm able to make money on the videos that I make. But that wasn't always the case, and I know especially early on it would have made a huge difference in my bottom line to not have to front as much of the travel and lodging and ticket costs associated with going to these events. So I just had to go to bat a little bit for my fellow creators, especially small to medium-sized video game hunting creators. Would love to see more of them getting free tickets and lodging and VIP access and all that stuff. But lest anybody say, Caleb, why are you taking this section of the video to wag your fingers at whoever is in charge of marketing for video game conventions? Let me tell you one thing that I've learned this last year. Because this is the first time in my life that I have actually experienced event organization firsthand. I'm trying to organize a reseller networking event in August. By the way, I'll try to put the link to that if you're interested in the description. And the biggest thing that it has taught me is that events for multiple hundreds of people are a ton of work. And folks, I even have it easy because the event I'm trying to organize along with my friend Josh, it doesn't even involve organizing a ton of vendors to all be there and have tables and infrastructure set up to support that. It doesn't involve bringing in a ton of rental equipment like pinball machines and arcade machines that you will often see as free to play at these video game expo events. So if there's one perception that I want you guys to come away with of video game expo organizers, is that they work their butts off. It's hard to imagine the amount of organization and the amount of sheer work that goes into putting one of these events on. So next time you're at one, if you know who is organizing it, often they kind of fly incognito, but if you do happen to know them, give them a handshake, give them a pat on the back and say, Thank you so much for putting on this event. I'm having a blast because they truly do put in a ton of work for them. Up next, let's talk about vendors, shall we? Because just like with organizers, I deal with a very broad spectrum of vendors that I will encounter at a convention. On one end of the spectrum, I've seen people who don't even sell at all to other people who are vendors. Like, they have a rule, they'll have signs up at their booth that say only selling to convention guests. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I've had vendors that I've dealt with that on the last day are literally looking to liquidate their entire stock and leave the convention with nothing. And obviously, to do that, you have to work with other vendors and you have to give really solid bulk discounts to other vendors to clear everything out. Now, I want to take this opportunity to make one thing very clear, because oftentimes people will assume when I'm going around to video game stores or I'm going around to vendor booths at conventions that if I'm walking away from a booth and I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to find anything, that means that I somehow disagree with their business practices, or I'm, complaining about the way that they do business and claiming that they should do it more the way I do. I want to be very clear, that's not the case at all. When I'm going up to another video game seller, I have no expectation whatsoever that I'll be able to buy things from them and still make my margins selling on Amazon or eBay or whatever. And if another vendor or another store doesn't want to give bulk discounts, or they want to mark their inventory at above eBay prices and not budge at all, or they want to have unmarked inventory that they will only tell you the price when they look it up on eBay at checkout, that's totally their right to do so. I might disagree, and I might talk in videos about why I don't do business that way, but I would never say that nobody else should do business in a way that's different from me or should be unwilling to sell me games at a price that I can still profit. That would be silly. Now, on the flip side of that, of course, most of my videos consist of people on this side of the spectrum that do tend to do business like I do, which is the more you buy, the more of a discount I'm motivated to give you. Because I love to go up to vendors, especially on the last day of a convention when people are looking to clear stuff out and say, like, I will literally buy thousands of dollars worth of games from you if we can work out a solid discount. Another thing that I'll tell you guys about that I haven't really talked about is that oftentimes there is sort of a stigma. There's a portion of the video game collecting community that is sort of like the toxic, like, hardcore purist OG kind of crowd that believes that resellers like me are the problem with video game hunting and the problem with video game collecting. We're the reason that prices are skyrocketing and why it's harder to find good games in the wild. And I may dedicate an entire video to that in the future if you guys want to hear my thoughts on it. But because that group of people exist, I actually often go into conventions with some amount of insecurity, just being worried that like this or that collector or this or that person that I might run into, maybe another creator, would see me as kind of the bad guy of the community and, the problem with the industry and all that. And I will say so far that has just not been my experience at all. I found that especially with vendors, we tend to very much be on the same kind of business-minded wavelength, and that's been super refreshing. So if there are any vendors watching, and I know that there are multiple that I have done a whole lot of business with in the past, both on the buying and selling side, just wanted to say shout out to you guys. Thank you for being so awesome, and I look forward to hopefully doing a lot more business in the future. The last kind of interaction that I'll talk about today is interactions with you guys, with viewers who find me either spontaneously or on purpose at video game conventions, and I will say those have been almost universally so positive. I'm so grateful that people will, stop me and say, hey, I watch your videos. I'll tell you, like, it's one thing to be like logging into your YouTube app and seeing views going up and subscribers and, feeling great about like your videos performing analytically. It's another to like look someone in the eyes and have them say, hey, like, our family watches your videos together every week and it's, a bonding thing. Or like, hey, I watched your videos a lot while I was recovering from this or that in the hospital. Like, that's like a deep kind of positive, just a deep joy that I get out of hearing that. So if you are someone who has told me that in the past, either like in person or, you know, in a message or whatever, thank you. That's very kind, and it's moments like that that really motivate me when I feel a little bit overwhelmed or, you know, exhausted with making videos, even though I believe I have, you know, one of the best jobs that someone can have. You know, doing multiple businesses at once can sometimes get tiring, so I appreciate you guys so much for being willing to do that. I've only ever really had one very negative interaction with, actually it was another creator on YouTube one time. That might be a story for another time, but basically called me a piece of doo-doo and walked out of the room, and I was like, oh geez. But for the most part, like, anybody, I think the people who don't like me don't go out of their way to talk to me in person, because they, you know, it's easier to type that kind of stuff than to say it. But I will say the only time that viewer interactions ever feel awkward is sometimes someone will be kind of caught off guard when they talk to me, or maybe they planned to, but they didn't really know what they wanted out of the conversation. So they'll be like, oh, hey, you're that YouTube guy. Wow, you know, and neither of us kind of really knows, you know. I've gotten a little bit better on my end. So if you've had an awkward interaction with me in the past, I'm sorry. It still feels very foreign to me when somebody wants, you know, like a picture or a hug or even an autograph. That's just like, that's surreal. I feel like I should be paying people even to ask me for that. Anyway, if you're looking for like any, I don't know, advice on like seeing your favorite creators out, you know, in the wild at conventions or video game stores or anything like that, I would just say, like, the only thing, like, just know what you want. Say like, hey, you know, I watch you, like you, can we get a picture? Can we get, you know, a handshake? Or, you know, will you sign this game or whatever? Because if it's someone like me who is already a little bit socially awkward, that might be the only way that interaction could feel a little uncomfortable. But more than anything, like, definitely feel free to stop anybody that you, unless they're actively filming, then maybe, you know, wait. At least on my end, I very much appreciate when people say any positive interaction that they've had with the channel, or, you know, any good impact that it has had on their lives. It means more to me than I can really say. So yeah, folks, I think that in the end, the winning marketing strategy for video game conventions is to put more dollars towards creator marketing rather than more traditional methods. I think that video game convention organizers are very underappreciated. I think there's a wide spectrum of negotiability and general business philosophies among the vendors at any given convention, and honestly, that's kind of the part of the beauty of it. And I think that viewer interactions are some of the highlights of every single convention that I go to. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and let me know what you want my honest thoughts on next.